Yeah, so NBA season is over. It was a really interesting year. Had a lot of ups and downs. New York Knicks finally got them one, man. First one in 53 years. Um, and if you ask me, man, pound for pound, they were probably the best team this year. I think OKC probably would have put up a better fight than the Spurs did, but I mean, um, you know, the Spurs definitely were the better team in that particular series with OKC. So, it's always interesting to see how it ends up, how the final teams end up looking at the end of the season. Because sometimes, very seldomly do you get those matches where it's like, okay, bet this is a good match. The best team in the West won and the best team in the East won. So, looking forward, the draft just happened. AJ DeBonso went number one, Darren Peterson number two. But in my honest opinion, man, the sleeper that's not a sleeper, but I think will have one of the better long-term NBA careers, I'm going Caleb Wilson, man. I think he's in a perfect situation in Chicago. Um, they're going to probably build around him as far as what their guards are doing and overall team structure. But I really look forward to seeing. He reminds me of Kevin Garnett, man. I've seen a little bit of Jermaine O'Neal in his game, but he really, really, really reminds me of Kevin Garnett. That's a great player comparison. And then Chicago's been looking for a guy like that. I think, they are going to be, one of those sleepers in the East as well this year. That was the offseason has been crazy as well. Looking at LaMelo Ball getting traded to Minnesota, I probably wouldn't have seen that coming. And I think a lot of people are in agreement, but I think that's a slight step back. And the main reason I say that is because getting rid of Julius Randle to promote Naz Reid, good. Julius was a non-factor in the playoffs. I always feel like he leaves the entertained eye wanting more. Even in New York, he was a solid guy. Don't get me wrong, but it was just always something. It wasn't enough. So to see him in Brooklyn, in a situation that could probably be more his own, may be better. But as far as with Minnesota, I just didn't see it. But I like the potential for LaMelo and Anthony Edwards. If you ask me, I think that, that could be a really entertaining backcourt. You know what I'm saying? It could be a very entertaining backcourt. But I don't know. That team on paper is still missing something in the West. West is still pretty wild. I don't think that LaMelo made them any exponentially, didn't really make them exponentially better. You finally got a point guard that I think you were looking for. I still would have preferred Ja with Anthony Edwards. But I guess, LaMelo's value right now is a little higher than Ja. But I don't know, man. In my honest opinion, I think they could have still gotten Ja for a little less than what they got LaMelo for, and still had the amount of upside. But nonetheless, I will say that I'm looking forward to seeing what Minnesota does. Continue, furthermore, like if they're gonna get any other pieces. I think maybe they still need a big. If they can get at least some type of power forward that's like a Swiss Army knife, type of guy, which is crazy because they just traded both of their power forwards. But somebody down there that can back up Gobert and still present a somewhat of a defensive presence. But lastly, we're just gonna touch on Ja. Man, I don't know what's going on with Ja. I think his value is still pretty high. I'm looking at his highlights. I mean, even what he did this year. In my humble opinion, whatever happened in that locker room to make him so upset or make the organization so upset with him, I don't think it could have been that bad, man. You know what I mean? I don't think it could have been that bad, but I do think they need to go ahead and get rid of him. You know, I just hate that it's value. They're talking about teams wanting them to attach draft capital to take on Ja. And I'm like, come on now. Like, y'all, look, come on, bro. Like, y'all, come on now. Like, let's be honest. You know, like, Ja is still Ja. Injury prone or not, you know, he's still Ja. Just, you know, make it fair is what I think they asking for. But, you know, I think organizations can learn something from this Ja Morant situation. You know, even in the case that you want to get rid of a guy or you know he's not a fit for the organization, it doesn't help you to to diminish their value. It doesn't help you to have public spats with the player when you know at the end of the day you want to get rid of him. You know what I mean? I think, you know, what would have been smart is to let him play up his value. Let him do what LaMelo did. You know, you're not winning. You know, whatever way he wants, you know, he wants his way in whatever shape or form. Let him have his way for those quick 10, 15 games and get him up out of there quickly. Because what we're seeing play out now is it's gonna be a net loss for them because he's definitely worth, you know, high first round draft picks, even as what he is currently, injury prone or not. But at the end of the day, you know, it's only so much you can do, man, you know, and there is a level of risk associated with taking him on, but I think the upside definitely outweighs the risk with him. But, you know, nonetheless, that was today's episode of the LaFleur Vision Podcast, man. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Until next time.